A majority of Filipinos continue to approve of the Duterte administration's performance on most leading national concerns, but gave the government low marks in equal enforcement of the law. The sentiment was reflected in the latest Pulse Asia research released Friday, October 20. The administration got a significant 7 percentage point drop on enforcing the law on all, whether on influential or ordinary people. Approval for equal enforcement of the law fell from 74% in June to 67% in September. It also got lower approval ratings in fighting criminality and corruption, both falling by 6 percentage points. In fighting criminality, the government got a 78% approval in September from 84% in June. In fighting graft and corruption in government, it got a 70% approval in September from 76% in June. The government got majority public approval on most of the 12 national concerns. It did not get public majority approval on its performance in reducing poverty, 49%, and controlling inflation, 45%. According to the survey, controlling inflation is the top urgent national concern of Filipinos. Based on the survey, 50% of Filipinos believe the government should prioritize reining in prices of basic goods. The survey results also show that higher pay for workers and fighting criminality remain among the top concerns of Filipinos. Pulse Asia President Ronald Holmes says, year on year, there is a single notable change, the 13 percentage point rise in the percentage of Filipinos who consider the need to control inflation as an urgent national concern. Holmes says Filipinos are least concerned about environmental degradation, 14%, reducing the amount of taxes paid by citizens, 9%, controlling rapid population growth, 8%, protecting the welfare of overseas Filipino workers, 6%, preparing to successfully deal with terrorism, 5%, defending national territorial integrity, 4%, and amending the 1987 Philippine Constitution at 2%. Filipinos gave the government the highest approval rating in its response to the needs of calamity victims and fighting criminality, both at 78%, followed by protection of the welfare of overseas Filipino workers at 76%. The other issues where the government obtained majority approval are on fighting corruption, 70%, protecting the environment, 68%, enforcing the rule of law, 67%, promoting peace, 67%, defending national territorial integrity, 65%, creating more jobs, 63%, and increasing workers' pay at 58%. President Rodrigo Duterte fires another government official. Without naming the official, Duterte said he fired an undersecretary of the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM.
I just fired the undersecretary of DBM, Office of the Budget. I was lucky because there were so many people. I wanted to slap him. I even stood up to wanted to keep him in the face. Fired him for corruption. The other 3 employees of my office I influence peddling. Of course, not with the money, but this one is tinkering with the money of. I told you, stop. STOP.
Duterte made the remark during a speech before the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Budget Secretary Benjamin Jokno confirmed that the DBM Undersecretary is Gertrudo de Leon, an appointee of the President. Duterte did not go into detail about the alleged corruption committed by the Undersecretary. In the DBM, de Leon served as the Legislative Liaison Officer to coordinate with the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office on the national budget. He worked at the law firm of Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea and Senior Deputy Executive Secretary Menardo Guevara. Malacañang and Foreign Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano appear to have different interpretations of President Rodrigo Duterte's stance on European Union aid to the Philippines. Presidential spokesman Ernesto Abella on Friday, October 20, said that Duterte's directive is that the Philippines will refuse only EU aid or grants with conditions. The day before, Cayetano said that the Philippines will reject all types of grants from EU. During a palace briefing, Abella says, if certain conditionalities are tied to the aid and grant, we must respectfully decline as we do not wish to subject ourselves to monitoring and be dictated to. Asked if this means Duterte will not reject all EU aid such as aid for Marawi, Abella says, I cannot specifically answer for that. It all depends on the conditionalities being given. The EU has offered 49 million pesos in aid for Marawi rehabilitation. Humanitarian aid such as this typically comes with no conditions. This is different from grants, which would come with some requirements on how assistance is to be used. But on Thursday, Cayetano told reporters that his department will soon relate to the EU that the Philippine government will decline all types of grants. Asked by reporters if this covers all types of aid, Cayetano said, that's my impression. So, aid meaning grants. The Foreign Secretary said this is in fulfillment of a directive from the President himself, referring to Duterte's speech on Wednesday, October 18, at Camp Bagong Diwa in Taguig City. In a related development, residents displaced by the Marawi crisis can expect more aid from the Department of Social Welfare and Development for 2 months upon return to their homes. According to the agency's Disaster Response Assistance and Management Bureau, the continuing relief is part of their intervention for early recovery. Families will receive 2 types of family packs, with each pack expected to last for 2 days. The DSWD will distribute these in bulk, enough for 2 weeks. Set A includes 6 kilograms of rice, 4 cans of corned beef, 4 cans of sardines, and 4 packs of coffee. Set B also has 6 kilograms of rice with 1 kilogram of mongo beans, 200 grams dried fish, 250 grams rock salt, 200 grams turmeric powder, 500 grams sugar, and 50 grams instant coffee. Once residents are allowed to go back to Marawi City, they will also receive 4,000 pesos in cash from the DSWD. This is part of the 5,000 pesos the government earlier promised to the displaced residents. 1,000 pesos of this amount was given in advance for the celebration of the end of Ramadan last June 26. Catalan separatists are flocking to withdraw cash on Friday in protest at the central government and at banks who moved headquarters out of the Spanish region. Some protesters were making symbolic withdrawals of 155 euros or $183, a reference to Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution, which Madrid is using to start imposing direct rule over the semi-autonomous region. Others were opting for 1,714 euros or $2,023 in a nod to 1714, a highly symbolic date for independent supporters, marking the capture of Barcelona by the troops of King Felipe V. More than 800 companies have moved their legal headquarters out of Catalonia, citing the risk of instability. Spain says it will move to seize some of the Catalan government's powers after its leader warned he could declare independence, escalating the country's worst political crisis in decades. The central government in Madrid gave separatist leader Carlos Puigdemont until 10 a.m. on Thursday to say whether or not he was declaring a breakaway state in the semi-autonomous region following a chaotic referendum on October 1. Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy had warned he would trigger Article 155 of Spain's constitution, a never-before-used measure allowing it to impose direct rule over the northeastern region unless Puigdemont backed down. There are fears that such a move could spark unrest in the region where even Catalans who oppose independence cherish their autonomy. Japan's Emperor Akihito will step down on March 31, 2019, the first imperial retirement in more than 2 centuries. Citing unnamed government sources, Asahi Shimbun reports Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will meet top officials and members of the royal household next month before announcing the date. The paper says Akihito's eldest son, 57-year-old Crown Prince Naruhito, will ascend the chrysanthemum throne the next day on April 1. The popular 83-year-old Akihito shocked the country last year when he signaled his desire to take a back seat after nearly 3 decades, citing his age and health problems. There have been abdications in Japan's long imperial history, but the last one was more than 200 years ago. Akihito's unexpected move presented a challenge since there was no law to deal with an emperor retiring from what is usually a job for life. It reignited a debate about allowing women to ascend the traditionally male-only throne. In June, the parliament passed a one-time rule allowing the aging emperor to step down. Empress Michiko, who turned 83 Friday, said in a statement, "It is an immeasurable relief to me that His Majesty can now have days of rest as he reaches an advanced age."